Hi guys, welcome to session 2 of the Circadian Medicine Biohack. I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone's having a lovely day and a lovely week. I'm not quite sure what happened. The previous video just cut out, so I've restarted it. So I'm not quite sure why that happened. So apologies for that slight technical hitch. So today we're moving into the second area really of circadian, the fundamental impact of circadian medicine on our health, and it's a crucial area because we're looking at circadian nutrition. Okay, so firstly, I just want to recap on what we spoke about last week and then dive into this week's content. Okay, so last week we spoke about the first 90 minutes of sunlight. And we spoke about how sacrosanct, how vitally important that first 90 minutes after sunrise is. Because that unique UVA, UVB infrared light, in that first 90 minutes, it has a completely unique frequency. Okay, and that frequency is what activates a part of the brain called the SCN, which is in the hypothalamus, that stimulates the brain to turn on all of the daytime clock genes to ensure the proper calibration of the body over the next 24 hours. Okay, and that's an evolutionary driven mechanism. Okay, as daytime acting mammals. Okay, when we were living in as hunter-gatherers, when we were living in hunter-gatherer communities, we would wake with the sun. Okay, every other mammal that is daytime acting diurnal wakes with the sun. Okay, and that's the trigger for the whole of the circadian cycle for the next 24 hours. Okay, and what it means is that we've got these daytime clock genes and we've got nighttime clock genes. The daytime clock genes are what calibrate every single one of the trillions of things that have to happen in the body in daylight hours to keep us fit, strong, healthy, to destroy viruses, to identify cancer cells, to prevent plaque formation in the arteries, whatever it may be. Everything that has to happen to keep the body properly calibrated is activated by those daytime clock genes. That in turn is activated by that first 90 minutes of light. Okay, when the sun then sets and darkness falls, that's the cue to the SCN in the brain, a part of the hypothalamus, that the day is ending. Okay, so I'm going to turn off all of the daytime regulating aspects of the body, and I'm going to turn on the nighttime ones. Okay, and our nighttime clock genes then turn on, and that informs all of the nighttime activity of the body in terms of nighttime immune activity, repairing damage over the previous day, reducing inflammation, all of these kinds of things. But the bottom line is it all comes down to that early morning exposure. Okay, which is why last week it was such an important session, because we spoke about the need to we must be exposing our eyes to that early morning light. Okay, I think it's as a prerequisite for health as eating a healthy diet, exercising the body, getting good sleep, or whatever, all of the things that the evidence tells us are so important for health promotion, and disease prevention. I think that early morning exposure to natural light is up there with the same level of importance. Okay. And that impacts upon the body in so many ways. Okay, in a later session, we're going to talk about the immune system specifically and how profoundly aligned our immune cells are to the circadian rhythm, and actually that living in a way that ensures our body is circadian aligned is one of the most effective ways of keeping our immune system working in the most effective way possible. But the other area that is absolutely sacrosanct is circadian nutrition. Okay, which is what I want to talk about today. Because remember what we said last week, if we're harnessing that first 90 minutes of sunlight, okay, it's going to maximize our chances of staying in its circadian alignment. Okay, which is where all the cells in our body are working with our circadian rhythm. If we miss that, we move into a place of circadian disalignment, where it creates this turmoil because our cells aren't working in alignment with the circadian rhythm. And when it comes to our gut health, our digestive health, nutrition, metabolic diseases, this is absolutely profound. Okay. And what that research shows, and this is really quite new research actually, it's only really come out in a way that's unequivocal, over the last 3 or 4 years, is that it's now proven unequivocally that all of the cells in our digestive system, okay, the cells in our liver, the cells in our gut, the cells in our colon, in our pancreas, all of them are circadian driven. Okay, they are governed and driven at their base level by the circadian rhythm. Okay, our digestive system is circadianly driven. Okay, and that's so important, because if you think about, if we're making effort to eat good food, okay, we're trying to optimize our diet and eat really healthily. Like I said before, eating a healthy diet is only the potential for health. Okay, healthy food is only healthy when the nutrients from that food enter into our cells. Okay, until they do that, it's only at that exact point in time that healthy food becomes healthy, when the nutrients enter into our cells. When they're being, until they get there, healthy food is just the potential for health. Okay, what ensures that we're able to extract the nutrients from the food we eat and deliver them into our cells is the effectiveness of our digestive system. Okay, and perhaps more than anything else, what impacts upon the effectiveness of our digestive system in its broadest sense is whether our digestive system cells are working from a place of circadian alignment, or if they're working from a place of circadian disalignment. And I think the majority of us, and I include myself in this, unless we're really, really making a lot of conscious effort to make sure we are in circadian alignment, I think a lot of us will be in metabolic circadian disalignment. Okay, and I'll talk about why in a minute. So what does the research show about this? The research shows that from the perspective of circadian genetics, we are designed to receive the majority of our food in the first part of the day. Okay, so from sunrise until about 2 p.m. Okay, we are designed to consume the bulk of our calories during that first part of the day. Okay, so from sunrise to about 3 p.m. ish. And then a small intake in the evening, okay, and never anything after dark. Okay, it would be, from an evolutionary perspective, no diurnal mammal eats after dark. Okay, it's impossible. We're not designed to eat. We can't eat after dark. We're not designed to eat after dark. And when that's the case, when we're eating in that way, okay, what it means is that because we are working with the circadian action of our digestive cells are able to really optimally break down and assimilate and deliver the nutrients we're eating into the cells of the body. Okay, so we get the full health benefit, of that food. And that, I think, potentially explains. Did anyone see the research study that came out? I think it was last week or the week before last. A really big study looking at long-term follow-ups of people who didn't eat breakfast regularly, people that hardly ever ate breakfast. Okay, and people not eating breakfast, if you regularly miss breakfast, it was one of the biggest independent risk factors for morbidity, okay, for developing serious life-threatening diseases. Okay, not eating breakfast. Okay, and that's not to say that intermittent fasting is bad. I miss breakfast about twice a week, okay, to intermittently fast. That's not what the research was looking at. The research was looking at people who never eat breakfast. Okay, they get up, they leave the house, and they don't eat until 11, 12, 1 o'clock. Okay, and it was such a clinically significant predictor of all-cause mortality, heart disease, cancers, so many things. And when we look at the metabolic implications of this, we can see why. Okay, but before we get on to that, there's a further gain to making sure that we are, ensuring that our digestive system is operating from a place of circadian alignment. Okay, and it's the new frontier of circadian medicine. It comes down to the gut microbiome. Okay, I'm sure everyone here is well versed on the importance of the microbiome. I think there's not one cell in the body, there's not one organ system, there's not one disease prevention mechanism that's not positively impacted upon by the microbiome. Okay, to live in a healthy body, we have to have a healthy gut. Okay, it's a non-negotiable, and this is potentially, I think this research might win the Nobel Prize. But what the research showed was that every single one of the 100 trillion microbes that make up the human microbiome, so the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, that 100 trillion of them live in our colon. Okay, every single one of those the function of those is governed by the circadian rhythm. Okay, and the implications of that are almost too much to comprehend. If you think about the fact that 80 to 90% of our immune system is produced there, if you think about the majority of our dopamine and our serotonin is produced there, the majority of our inflammatory mechanisms are regulated there. The regulation of so much of our genetic kind of blueprint is regulated there. Those microbes that operate in our gut are probably the single most powerful thing that predicts health or disease in our body. Okay, and every single one of them is governed by the circadian rhythm. And if those microbes in the gut are in a place of circadian disalignment, okay, it creates havoc in the body. Okay, in terms of opening the door to disease. Okay, it suppresses immunity, it elevates inflammation, it reduces nutrient absorption. The list goes on. Okay, but conversely, if those microbes in the microbiome are operating from a place of circadian alignment, so they're working with the circadian rhythm rather than against it, it's kind of the foundation of what it is to be fit, healthy, vital, and to maximize our disease preventing capacities. Okay, and this is such unique and such compelling evidence and such compelling research to think that these aren't our cells. Our liver cells and our pancreatic cells and our colon cells. They're ours, they're part of our body, but these aren't. These are microbes, these are bacteria and viruses and fungi that are living in us, but are in addition to us. But even they are still regulated by our circadian rhythm. Okay. So the best way of, we'll go through the 3 top tips for maintaining circadian alignment in our digestive system. But the bottom line is that we are designed to eat the majority of our calories in the first part of the day, from sunrise till 2 o'clock, and then progressively fewer calories towards sunset and darkness. Okay. And that served us, as a species, all the way up until the Industrial Revolution. Okay, that's how we've eaten for almost all of our existence. Okay, but now we're operating in a place that's kind of the diametric opposite of what we should be doing. And it was, if you look at the medical anthropology around this, every single person is saying the same thing, which was that the biggest, one of the most traumatic things that had happened to our body in terms of increasing our risk factors for disease was the Industrial Revolution. Okay, why? Because what did the Industrial Revolution do? It forced us to break ranks and construct our life not around the circadian rhythm, but around factory working times. Okay, and that pattern continues today. Okay, if you think about Lots of traditional mountain communities, particularly in Italy and Slovenia. When we were traveling in 2022, we took 5 or 6 months. We went around Europe in the motorhome to try and find lots of healing secrets from around Europe. And in these communities, they still follow that way of life. Okay, they still have big breakfast. They have a really big lunch, and they have hardly anything for dinner. Okay, these are foresters. Okay, they're farmers. They're bakers. They're living really traditional lifestyles in very rural, usually mountainous regions of Central and Eastern Europe. Okay, they haven't fallen prey to kind of the industrial framework that we have. Okay, what did the Industrial Revolution do? It said, let's get out the house quickly. Let's go to the factory all day. Okay, so you couldn't make breakfast properly because you had to be out the house really quickly. You couldn't make lunch your biggest meal of the day because you were at the factory. There was no kitchen, there was no fridges, there was nowhere to prepare food. So you then get home from work at 6, and you'd have the biggest meal of the day at 7, 7:30, 8 in the evening. Okay, and that legacy continues today. Okay, very few of us operate in work platforms or work spaces where we can make really healthy, nutritious meals at work. Okay, most of us, I think, of the 42 people here listening live, most of us would probably say that we grew up in a family, or we still exist in a family, where the biggest meal of the day is in the evening. Okay, and that is not something that our body can recognize. Okay, from an evolutionary perspective, from a circadian perspective, we don't have the tools to facilitate that. Okay, because what happens? Okay, it gets to 7:30, 8 in the evening. Okay, the SCN in the brain, the master timekeeper in the brain, in the hypothalamus, is, as it's getting dark, it's moving to 7:30, 8 in the evening. It turns off the daytime clock genes. It turns on the nighttime clock genes. So it essentially says to the digestive system, that's it for the day. Okay, the day's ending. You're not going to eat now. You won't eat again until tomorrow. So I'm going to shut down all of our digestive and metabolic processes. Okay, so your liver shuts down, your bile flow shuts down, your hydrochloric acid shuts down. All of your digestive mechanisms begin to shut down until the following day. But then you put food into the body. You then have dinner, or you have the packet of crisps, or you have the ice cream at 9 o'clock at night. And what happens? Okay, the brain is saying shut down, but the cells are saying I've got to fire up because someone's put food into it. Okay, so the brain is saying to your stomach shut down, but the stomach is actually saying fire up because I've got a whole meal full of food in here. And what does that do? It creates immense metabolic dysfunction. Okay, and if we look at the data around metabolic diseases, okay, diabetes, lots of heart diseases, obesity, these kinds of things, they became pandemic from the start of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, and the big argument is that it's not a change in diet, it's not a change in what we're eating, it's a change in when we are eating it. Okay, and if you look at the communities around the world who still follow that traditional pattern of most of the calories in the first part of the day, their metabolic profile is significantly better than those who aren't. Okay, and there's been some fascinating studies looking at Japanese migrants. Okay, so they've looked at Japanese families, one brother or one sister stays in Japan. Okay, and they follow the same pattern. Kind of quite healthy breakfast, usually quite a big lunch and very small dinner. And then, some of the families stay in Japan and some of them migrated to America. And there's lots of research around this. And even though the Japanese migrants into America, they still adopted a Japanese diet. Okay, they didn't change what they were eating, but they changed when they were eating. Okay, so they maintained their Japanese rituals, their Japanese diet, but rather than having it in the morning and lunchtime, they had it in the evening. So they had Japanese food set to the American clock. And what happened? They developed the same metabolic profile as the Americans. So what the research was suggesting is that it's not so much what we're eating, it's when we're eating it. And there was a a really powerful study done by Harvard Medical School, and it looked at medical students, okay, who are going through Harvard, and they constructed this phenomenally healthy meal. Okay, it had all of the healthy fats, lots of vegetables and grains, a really healthy meal. And then they gave it to them to eat at 8 in the morning, okay, and then they gave it to them to eat again at 8 in the evening. Exactly the same meal, okay, conducted, nutritionally matched. So the meal they had in the morning was exactly the same to the nearest half a calorie as the meal they had in the evening. And they watched what happened. So after they had the meal in the morning, they watched what happened over the next 4 hours in terms of blood sugar, in terms of immune regulation, in terms of inflammatory regulation, in terms of blood triglycerides, all insulin production, pancreatic load, bile flow, the full range. Okay, and that meal induced a profound healing response. Okay, their immune system elevated, their microbiome got nourished, their inflammatory markers dropped, their blood sugar stayed stable. It gave them a real benefit. When they had the same meal at 8 in the evening, it was a metabolic disaster. Okay, it caused blood sugar spikes, big blood sugar spikes. It caused insulin spikes. It caused inflammatory markers. It put their blood triglycerides through the roof, on and on and on and on. Okay, the meals were exactly the same. Okay, but when they ate the meals, significantly altered what the meal did to them. Okay, and there's now really strong consensus, in the metabolic research and the metabolic scientists, particularly those from the circadian background, that in light of the metabolic pandemic we're experiencing, we need to change the dialogue around what we're pushing, around public health and nutrition. Yes, we need to eat healthy food, but the bigger impact is probably when we're eating it. Because if we look at the data and we look at the evidence, and this is really, really gaining traction now, we can see that a digestive system that is circadian disrupted is now proven to be an independent risk factor for every kind of disease we fear the most. Okay, Alzheimer's particularly, circadian disruption in our gut is one of the biggest risk factors now for Alzheimer's, okay, because of the impact it has on blood sugar, which we know is a major risk factor for Alzheimer's. It's a major risk factor for cancer. It's a major risk factor for heart attacks and strokes, type 2 diabetes, obesity. The list goes on. Okay, and it's not the food we're eating. It's the fact that it's going into the body and it's going into the digestive system that is circadian disrupted. Okay, this mismatch between what the brain is saying and what the actual cells and organs in the digestive system are having to cope with. So in terms of what we can do to facilitate circadian alignment in our digestive system, there's a few things that the evidence emphasizes above all else. Okay, the first one is hitting our eating times. Okay, this is really, really key. Breakfast between about 7 and 8, because our digestive system is regulated by the circadian rhythm to have 3 spikes a day. So it has a spike in the morning, a spike in the afternoon, and a spike in the evening. And during those spikes, our digestive system is best kind of prepared to receive food, because it's all of the digestive mechanisms have been activated by the circadian rhythm. If we put food into the body at that time, it's going to be broken down properly, assimilated, and the waste cleared. Okay, so those 3 digestive spikes are between about 7 and 8 in the morning, between about 12 and 2 in the afternoon, and before 7 p.m. in the evening, between about 5 and 7:30 in the evening. Okay, that's probably the most important thing we can do, is hit those 3 digestive spikes. The next thing is, and I think this is one where we're probably all going to struggle with, which is why I said that all of us here, and myself included, are probably operating from a degree of circadian disruption, is trying to break the habit of having our biggest meal in the evening. Okay, we can't thrive with that. It's not how we're designed to eat. And there's never a truer saying, breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. I'm sure we've all heard that. There's never a truer saying than that. That is the optimal nutritional model for maintaining circadian alignment in our digestive system. Having a really healthy, nutritious breakfast, a really healthy, nutritious lunch, and a small kind of light almost snack in the evening, so that we're not creating conflict between the brain telling the body to shut down because it's night and our digestive system having to fire up because we're putting food in when we shouldn't be eating. Okay, that is not easy to do. Okay, and the third thing, which I think is collectively one of the most powerful things we can do to optimize our metabolic health and reduce our risk factors for all types of diseases, is not to eat anything after 7 p.m. or 7:30 at the latest. Okay, I think the more research comes out and the more I immerse myself in that research, the more profound this becomes. I think it's the same as making sure we're exercising for an hour a day, or we're making sure we're getting 8 hours sleep a night. This is up there with that. Trying to never put calories into the body after 7:30 in the evening, because one, that maintains at least a 12-hour fasted state until the next breakfast, but it means that's going to almost guarantee circadian alignment, because we're not going to be putting food into the body when the brain is saying shut down. Okay, so not putting food into the body after 7:30. Okay, maybe different on a Friday night or a Saturday night, you're going to take away or something like that. But as a general rule of thumb, really trying to make that your modus operandi. Okay, you get to 7:30, and that's it. There's no calories going into my body until tomorrow morning. And I think that is a profoundly powerful way of maintaining circadian alignment in our gut and in our digestive system. Okay, and we've got to remember that this is all pervading. And what we eat and what we nourish our body with is the foundation of health. And yes, eating the right food is fundamental, but making sure we're benefiting from it is equally important. And to benefit from it, we need to be making sure that our digestive organs are in circadian alignment. And to do that, we need to take away anything that's going to create disruption. And they're the three biggest ones. Making sure we're hitting our digestive spikes, making sure we're front loading our calorie intake between sunrise and kind of 2 p.m. and not putting food into our body after about 7:30 p.m. Okay, if we can do that, we're going to maintain a pretty solid state of circadian alignment in our gut. And that is a prerequisite for health, particularly when it comes to our microbiome. Okay, Facebook's going through a bit of a weird stage at the moment, so I can't see any of the questions that are coming up on this feed. Okay, I'm sure there's lots of them. So what I'll do, I'll go through those and retrospectively answer them if there are any questions. So please, or if you're watching this on catch up, please let me know. Please, if you've got any questions, please let me know. But do try and take this on board. Okay, it's not a small thing. One of the reasons I was so keen to run this four-part series is because this is, the more research that comes out, and the more you dive into this research, the more you see that this is the foundation of health. Living in a place of circadian alignment is the most foundational prerequisite for living in a healthy, vital body. It's a non-negotiable. We must be operating from a near constant state of circadian alignment. It's going to affect our mood. It's going to affect our aging. It's going to affect our longevity. It's going to affect every single part of us. Okay, and we need to make sure we're doing things every day that's going to facilitate that. Last week, we covered the most important one, which is making sure we expose our eyes to natural light within the first 90 minutes after sunrise. That's the linchpin for the next 24 hours. Today, we've spoken about 3 things to maintain circadian alignment in our nutritional systems, okay, which is equally important. So any questions, do let me know. Thank you for joining me. To have 45 people here live is a real privilege, so I'm super grateful. Like I say, I'll answer any questions that are on this thread retrospectively, because I can't see them on here at the moment. Any questions on the catch-up, let me know. But other than that, have a lovely, lovely evening, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.